you want to go up there, lay peel and stick, sticky side up, across the top of it with the backing peeled off, then drop the panel onto it,
and then try to
smooth it out. And it's like, huh? Welcome to the Fine Home Building Podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on casas. I'm Justin Fink. I'll be your host. I'm joined by Rob Yegid and Rob Yegid.
Hello, hello.
We're a two-man crew today. I mean, Jeff's here. Jeff's in the room.
Jeff's always here.
So we're, instead of a four-man crew, we're a three-man crew.
Where's Brian?
Brian's on the road. He's hanging out with Gary Striegler. He sent me a message this morning saying that he's shot 89 videos while he's there.
Awesome.
So we're looking for those. He's out there. Actually, he's doing 3 different things while he's there. He's getting an article about building frame and panel doors, big barn doors, with Gary.
Hey, I need that article.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you've shifted from like creating content to needing all of the stuff we're making.
Yeah.
Because you just wanted one on flashing a roof vent.
Yeah, and
the
I
other
want
day, and
stuff
that article's coming out too.
And I need one on the difference between M and L copper pipe.
And he's also getting a bunch of Gary's really good at efficient trim carpentry. So we're getting 2 separate articles on jigs, also one on table saw jigs and one on router jigs. We're going to try and revisit some of those basics and really crank that stuff out. So
I don't know if it's because Gary's from down south, or if he's just so experienced and has been at this like for so long. The times that I've had the opportunity to do articles with Gary down there on projects, he's just like so calm.
Yeah.
He's moving through like what are fairly complex and complicated kind of trim packages, just with like this demeanor that's just, I don't know, he's just so at ease.
It's very, yes. Yeah, and we went out down there years ago and did a Project House video series with him on, I think we were doing wainscot. I think we were doing wainscot, and then we were doing trim too. Like we did crown molding. I think we were just trimming a room in general.
Sure.
And so I got to work alongside him, and that was what it was like the whole time. I mean, he's just
motoring
he's totally
through
in his element, and just he doesn't really celebrate slick tricks and like I'm the best. It's just kind of confidently moving from one thing to the next and not ever making mistakes. He's just so.
It always appeared to me like he just has a system dialed in.
Yeah.
Like he's got his workflow and he knows.
Yeah.
Whatever the task is, whether it's hanging doors, trimming doors, curve casing, he's just done it so much. So that's why he makes those great articles.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. I didn't say FHBpodcast@taunton.com. That's where you can send us questions and topics for discussion. You can also go to finehomebuilding.com/podcast to see the show notes. We've got a few photos that are going to be going up as part of this episode.
Hey, when is this episode gonna air?
Were you going to say episode?
Episode. Kind of like shoof.
When is this going to air? Well, that is just a gotcha question.
All right. We should probably mention that we're going to be heading till JLC Live soon.
When is that?
That's the end of March.
Oh, yeah. This will be before that. This will be...
The second.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
You have a microphone?
Jeff.
I have a microphone.
Jeff, do you want to be the third person on the show today?
Do you want to come in front of the camera?
No.
All right. JLC Live. We're going to be doing a networking event. I don't know, for the people who had heard us talk about it, but we did something similar at the Remodeler Show down in Nashville a couple months ago. Get a couple of the guys together and have a panel discussion moderated by very own Justin Fink. Just talking about
news to me.
Yeah, building best practices and developing your business.
Is Jeff also going to be there?
Jeff is probably going to be there.
Jeff doesn't know that yet either.
Oh, that's this afternoon. You got a meeting invite.
Yeah.
All right.
I accept it.
Anyway, yeah, sweet. It'll be on that Friday
in Providence.
Of the show in Providence, Rhode Island.
It's a kick-ass show. If
yeah.
anybody's never been to it, it's got all of the. It's a tight, packed show. It's very builderly, very much guys in the field walking around, learning about some new products, but also a chance to buy products, new products. The companies, the manufacturers there, big power tool companies, all sorts of smaller product companies, and they're selling stuff right on the show floor for pretty good discounts. It's definitely worth checking out.
It is March 22nd to the 24th. Our event will be in the JLC Lounge. on that Friday.
And JLC is a journal of light construction for anybody who doesn't know that.
How dare you?
But they don't own that show anymore, right?
No, they don't. It was a Hanley Wood owned show for a while, and now
Which is their publisher.
that's their publisher, so that's the affiliation.
But they're not. It's because some people might be like, well, why is Fine Home Building presenting at a JLC show? And like, because a lot of people perceive us as like we're competitors, we're enemies with each other. And It's
Right.
really not. I mean, it's like we do very different things.
We do very different things.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. It's no longer owned by Hanley Wood, which is the publisher of JLC.
Yep.
And it's owned by a company called Informa,
Right.
who now runs a lot of their trade shows.
So they're just kind of using the JLC name at this point.
Yeah, for the next. Yes, they
Well,
are.
they've got some kind of an agreement of how many years.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Then it will become Fine Home Building Live.
Trying, man. I'm trying. Don't think I haven't brought it up already.
Yeah.
They told me to wait 7 years. So yeah, our event will be the Friday, March 23rd at 1 o'clock in the lounge. And so we'll kind of kick it off with a panel conversation. And then we're just going to then hang out and drink some beer and share some ideas and connect with people that you may have heard of on who may have been guests on the show or editors, contributors, and we'll just hang out for a while. So
Cool. What kind of beer will it be?
I don't know. Hopefully it's going to be good beer, cold beer. And we're also going to try to do at least 1 or 2 podcasts from the show floor.
Free hugs with Jeff Rose.
Free hugs with Jeff Rose.
Not the kind of guy you want to hug.
Yeah, so come hang out and come say hello. And
Hey, can we? You asked me a question yesterday, or you brought up a question yesterday. This is not on my official show notes here,
brought up a lot of questions.
I wanted to talk about that built-in that you were discussing because I think there's some stuff there. You're talking about fitting a built-in between two walls.
How I was going to describe those end styles.
Yeah, so
Against those two
essentially
walls.
you've got a 3-sided nook, right?
Correct.
And you're gonna. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're putting in there? Because we kind of talked about it briefly. We were doing a million things at
Yeah.
once, so
So,
let's do it officially on the air.
All right, so if you recall, and we'll have Mike put this little article up on the show notes page. This is in this space that you worked on when you installed that interior window in my
Right.
house.
And recent article, yeah.
Recent article. And so that window sits within a nook, kind of looking from a hallway into an office area. And so in that nook, I had originally thought of putting a built-in desk there, still kind of going back and forth with, do I want the desk there or do I just want built-in cabinets? Can I use the little extra storage that I would lose if I had some knee space at a desk?
Yeah.
And can I really see myself sitting there? Or what often happens is I pour myself a cup of coffee and I go sit at my dining room table where I've got like lots of room. I can spread some stuff out.
And you got better light.
Got better
you're not
light,
facing a
got
wall.
cool light, and you're not, so.
Yeah.
So the design is in the air, but either way, there's a built-in unit going to be going into this nook. And so the question that I posed to you yesterday was, and I was thinking about it in my head, was like, the house is a little bit wonky. It's older. It's kind of framed like crap.
You have 2x3 walls.
It's got 2x3 walls there.
Yeah.
As we discovered.
Yeah.
So we just started spitballing strategies for how best to scribe the face frame of the cabinet into those 2 wing walls, let's call them.
Mm-hmm. How are you going to build the cabinet? What's the construction going to look? Are you doing it? I guess there's a couple of questions here. One, are you like building the box and then applying the face frame? Are you even more backed up than that? You're going to build the thing, or are you going to try to buy boxes and join
No, I was
them
going to build the
together?
carcasses.
Okay, so you're building with plywood,
Building with plywood.
and then
And I wasn't-
solid wood face frame, no face frame.
Solid wood face frame, but I wasn't going to permanently attach the face frame to the carcasses and try to install that as kind of like a single unit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because, and this is kind of where it gets into like the strategy and the sequencing, is because I know I'm very likely going to have to scribe those 2 end styles into the wall.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to pocket screw the face frame to the carcasses, because what I had thought would be like, okay, I would essentially have the face frame pocket screwed together.
Yeah.
Have it independent of the boxes, but leave those styles just a little bit wider to give me some meat and back bevel them so that I just have to scribe a very fine edge instead of the complete, 3/4, whatever width of the material. And I was going to remove those once I got once I got the boxes in and they're on their base and they're all where they ought to be, I would pull the end stiles off the face frame, hold the rest of the face frame in place to where that wants to be, and just kind of pin it.
So like the top and bottom rails, and then whatever.
Yeah, like whatever dividers in the meter. That's all still constructed. Just kind of pin that temporarily to the carcasses, and then hold those stiles up one to the right, and then scribe that in, and then and do the same with the others, and then pull down the face frame, reattach those, and then kind of secure the face frame to the carcasses.
Okay, so
is that clear enough?
So what are the pieces that you're tacking up doing? Like that middle assembly with the top rail, the bottom rail, and intermediate stiles. What is it doing?
It's just
to
ensuring
fasten
like
that?
that's like that's just like the fixed element. Like I know like that's like where the face frame needs to be, and so that I could register the width and the scribe.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
I'm assuming 3/4 inch plywood for the boxes.
Yes.
Are you trying to flush up the inside face of the face frame with the face of the plywood?
Not mandatory.
Okay. Because that's a place you can hide if it's not perfect.
By giving myself just like a little bit of a reveal if I wanted to.
Like if you're slightly off.
I see what you're saying.
If the face frame is slightly off center of the 3/4 inch plywood, you have some wiggle room to hide there.
I got what you're saying.
I've mostly now been building so that the cabinet boxes end up flush with the edges of the face frame.
And you do that just simply by doubling up
double up the plywood.
Your plywood.
Yeah. And 1.5 or 2 inch wide rails and stiles.
Right.
So the way that I have done what you're talking about in the past is put let's say it's like 2 cabinet boxes. Those get screwed together with the space between them.
Yep.
And set in the opening, leveled first, and then centered between the opening, on the opening. And I've also kind of held a level up against the wall surfaces to figure out how out of plumb or how wavy they're going to be. Because if you know that if you got a bunch of intermediate stiles being the vertical pieces, if you have a bunch of those and you want them to all be, let's say, 2 inches, you want those end pieces to be purposeful.
Sure.
2 inches or a little more than 2 inches or even from side to side.
Yeah.
So you sort of have to figure that out before you build the plywood. Like you got to know how wide that piece is going to end up being. Because if you have this big dip and it somehow turns into 3.5 inches because the wall's so terrible, it's going to look like dog meat.
Sure.
So at that point, you might want to consider floating the wall a little bit with something to even stuff out, or coming up with some other way to hide it. I remember we were talking about this another time. We were talking about doing a little rabbet, which is just a cut, like a little cut along the edge of the outside stiles, so that you have a shadow line between the face frame and the wall.
So that,
and you can hide in the shadow line a little bit.
Because we did talk about
anyway,
that.
I got off track, but this is the way I have done it in the past.
That's an interesting.
Is I've taken, so the boxes are in place. I've got it centered. I've got an idea of where I want to be. Then I take the right-hand stile, hold it in place, and scribe it to the wall. Take it back to the bench, cut it, put it back in place, and then figure out. So I've left that piece really wide. I've left it wider than I need. Then I figure out, okay, now that it's scribed in place, I can get that sense of like, how wide do I want it to be? And I have one scribed edge and I have one clean straight edge. I can remove material from the clean straight edge with like a track saw or block plane or whatever, and reduce the width to make it look like I want to. Repeat the same process with the left-hand one against the left-hand wall. Then with them in place, held in place, I can take a sharp pencil and mark, or I could just tack them in place, or I could take a pencil and mark where they cross over onto the plywood box on both sides.
Yep.
Then I can take the measurement from mark to mark, and I know what my top rail length is.
Yeah. So you start with those end stiles, and then you back out of that into figure out the dimensions for the rest of your face frame.
This process works really well when you're working on site.
Yeah,
if you're prefabbing stuff and then you're
which I might be doing. I might be doing the shop down here.
And all that stuff, it gets harder to do that, and then it becomes Well, there's a couple different ways you could do that. You could scribe a piece, like a template piece, like like a 1/4 inch luan or something, and get a sense of, or just a scrap 3/4.
Sure.
That would be more accurate, and figure out, roughly what the shape of the wall is on both sides.
Yeah.
Again, figure out your measurement between those 2 points, and then make a template. And then you make your face frame in the shop. You lay these 2 scribed pieces over it, trace the contour, trim your actual finished face frame to follow the contours, and then pre-finish it. You might have to do some little wiggly stuff on site.
Yeah.
You're still going to be in a little bit of a struggle to get that thing into place without scratching the walls, though.
Sure.
Because that's just the reality. I've seen guys use clamps to spread 2 walls apart, even just gently.
Yeah, you were saying that. That seems.
I don't think it would work in your situation, but it can.
Yeah.
Depends how far back it is, and you don't need to move it
How much
too
drywall
much.
you want to crack?
Well, you put it over the studs, or you put like a board,
Sure.
horizontal board, and then you put this clamp in the middle of the board, so it's distributing the pressure, and you just kind of, imagine how much you have to move it. What, 1/8 of an inch? An 8-foot stud, 1/8 of an inch,
Yeah, I
just to
guess
get
you
it a
can do
little
it.
bit,
Yeah, yeah.
and maybe it cracks, and you have to touch up a crack, but
I got you. Okay.
you get tight joints. So I don't know. It's like what is your priority there? But sounds like a good article. Should write it.
Do you build your built-ins on a like a crib, like a base out of like other, or do you kind of?
I do. I make a separate base and I level that.
You level that
because it's so easy to level it without the cabinets being in.
Totally.
And then you put your boxes on top of it.
That's what I do.
Plus, you can use crappy plywood for the base. Nobody sees it.
Absolutely.
Save your premium plywood for the interiors. Pre-finished
And
plywood.
what kind of plywood do you like?
I like pre-finished. It's expensivo though.
Maple?
Yeah, usually it's maple.
I'll tell you what. There's this. What is that company?
It's a pain in the butt to cut that stuff with a track saw, though. I'll give you a fair warning there. You better have some clamps for that track.
Oh yeah, because a little bit of sawdust gets on that thing between the track and the.
Not even that. Just putting the track on
really?
pre-finished plywood it's a little too slippery to really grip well. And that stuff's so expensive, you don't want to screw up.
I don't know. Have you seen? I think on Instagram, I forget what the company's name, Humphrey Munson or something like that. They're a cabinet firm out of the UK. They make stunning built-ins and cabinets, and they use a lot of walnut on the interior.
That's nice too.
Gorgeous, like paint grade, like it's all painted, but you open those doors and it's all walnut.
Yeah,
it looks awesome.
I just did a hutch for the house that's like a darker blue color on the outside and like a very pale yellow on the inside. And I again did that trick. And I started doing this on that Hoosier cabinet I've been working on too, where the bottom of the cabinet, the bottom panel of the cabinet's raised up slightly so that it becomes the stop for the doors, the inset doors.
Yeah,
it works great. It's so
it
nice.
Does. And
totally clean.
You use butt hinges for the door?
I use butt hinges from Home Depot, and they were pretty nice. I mean, they're not like super premium, but they work fine. They're exactly 3/4. They fit a piece of stock nicely with just, you don't have to do a dado? What the hell is it? I guess it would be a mortise. You don't have to cut out like a mortise like you traditionally would, where you have to do 2 sides and the back of the mortise. You can just go straight through the stock.
I gotcha.
From face to face, and that way you have an easier time. You can do it on the table saw.
You got to post a photo of that in the show notes page so people get an understanding what you're talking about.
The hinge thing?
Well, just the stop using the base of the cabinet or the floor of the cabinet as a stop.
It's a little tricky because
Can you do it at the top too?
You can, yeah.
Yeah. So
you don't have a top up there, but I mean, you can hide the
That's
stop
what I'm
up
saying.
there.
You could, yeah.
Sure, it'd be the same deal.
Yeah.
And then you get into, I was doing this last night too. I just finally put the catches on the door.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what kind of catches did you use?
This is, I've been developing my methods.
Okay.
Do you remember years ago we did that vanity together?
Yes.
And I used rare earth magnets.
Correct.
For the catch. And I would put the rare earth magnets on the cabinet side and then some sort of a metal plate or a screw that was countersunk on the door.
Yep.
So the countersunk screw swings in and it hits the magnet, and the magnet acts as a catch. Now the catch here is that
nicely done.
Is the magnet, you don't really want to look at the magnet. They're not super attractive.
Right.
Also, they can be hard to fasten into a hole and keep them there long term.
Yep.
Like you can drill a hole and you can put it in and then like epoxy it or something, and yeah, it'll be fine, I guess. But those things are so tenacious, and they're like every time you close it, it's going to want to pull a little bit, and one day it might just go, boop, I'm done, I'm popping out. So I started to switch over to, and I've been kind of developing this technique, so it's kind of in flux. But the way I've ended up doing it is you take one board and you drill holes, counterboard holes into it that match the diameter of the magnet you want to put in the hole. So in my case, they were 1/2-inch holes.
Okay.
1/2 inch, just deep enough to fit the magnet so it's flush with the surface. Drop those magnets in, then spread a little glue on top, put a second piece of wood over the top, clamp it down, and let it dry.
What are we talking, how thick? How thick is that top piece?
1/4 inch maybe. Here's the deal, though. You
Okay.
need to finesse this thing to figure out the pull strength, because
Sure.
those magnets vary.
Yeah.
The door heights and weight of the door varies. So what you want to get is like this customized feel of the door feels secure enough that it's not going to open, and it feels like it has just enough resistance when I
Yeah.
open it to feel
Yeah.
like I'm doing something, but not so much that I feel like I'm yanking on the magnet.
Right.
And so the way you sneak up on that is you, once you have that piece of wood glued on top, and I've switched over to gluing on a contrasting wood. So let's say that my backing piece is poplar, I might glue on a piece of scrap cherry so that I can clearly see where those two pieces are glued together. Where's the seam?
You're just running through the planer.
I can run it through the thickness planer. I can use a
Gotcha.
hand plane.
Okay.
And I'm just shaving it down
Until you get the
and then I
pull
put
that
it
you
in
want.
place, and then I get just the pull I want. And
so
yet
just-
you don't see it.
sorry,
and you can just paint the whole thing after.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
But
If
just
it's painted.
But just clarify. So, like, where are those? And so then, do you mill? Like, do you cut that kind of like
I'm talking about two different things, I guess. I mean, so you could
confusing everybody,
You could, yeah.
including myself?
Those I have put at the top usually.
Okay.
That's where this technique works. If you're hiding the pulls or the catches at the top, so
Okay.
like I glue it like right onto the back of the top rail of the face frame, and it hangs down into the opening where
Yeah.
you're less likely to see it on like
Okay.
a vanity base cabinet.
Sure.
because you're tall and you're
Yep.
not going to see what's right underneath the top.
Yeah. And so there's a positive stop in terms of you actually have that board,
Right.
and then the door's held closed with the magnet.
Well, here's the deal that I've learned over the years too is for something like a base cabinet, your handles are at the top. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to put your catches at the bottom because then as you
you're
pull on the
racking the
top, you're
door.
racking the door.
Yeah.
You want your catches to be near to where the handles of the cabinet are.
For sure.
So, yes, I treat that bottom piece as a stop to keep the door in line, but I don't put my catches down there unless that's like for an upper cabinet, maybe that would make sense because
Right.
the upper cabinet handles are down near the bottom.
Yeah.
But in those cases, I think I would just rely on if I was going to try to incorporate that raised stop in the bottom panel as the stop, I would try to recess the magnets
Right into the edge.
right into that,
Yeah.
and then just rely on epoxy
Yeah.
or like some sort of epoxy putty. I've had decent luck with.
So you don't like ball catches or anything like that?
Ball catches are nice too.
Not with the pocket screwed face frames. Sometimes
What? Oh, because you
just the location of the screws. Yeah, I've learned that the hard way.
you drilled into it. And
Yeah.
you hit the screw.
Yeah, because again, like like that catch is going to be the top. Let's say the top corner of the door.
Man,
Depending upon your construction, sometimes I remember boring into like a face frame. I was like, "Wow, great!" Right into the pocket screw.
I have gotten screwed by pocket screw placement so many times.
Yep.
I just got screwed again where I put together the bottom rail of the cabinet and the two stiles, and then I went back and wanted to cut a little arch detail in the bottom to make it look. And I had to, and I didn't hit the screws because I remembered to back them out. But I was like, well, if I thought ahead about how I'm going to fasten this, I just wouldn't have put the screws there. Where
Yeah,
I knew
you
I
would
had
have
to-
just cheated them a little bit or
Yeah,
whatever.
and it's just like every time it's so humbling. Every time you build anything,
It's always about thinking as far ahead as possible.
while also not screwing up the thing you're really working on at the moment.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's why I like to build stuff in SketchUp first, because I always like to say that I make all my mistakes there, but I don't even follow my advice a lot of times. Sometimes I just have it, like this hutch project I just did was, we went to an antiques flea market and saw one and said, we could use something like this in the kitchen. And I said, if we build it in this way with, instead of out of solid wood and beadboard and all the stuff, we just make a plywood version with a face frame and frame and panel doors, I can finish this thing really quick.
Yeah.
And it was like, cool, thumbs up, let's do it. So I didn't bother to draw it out. I just started going. And so
There
you
you
end up
go.
making those mistakes when you
Yeah.
just start going. But it's fun. It's a fun build when you don't have to.
For sure.
Plan
So
it,
you
but-
so I know we're talking a lot about cabinetry. We could
That's all right. It's better than the questions we have.
change topics pretty quick. But for built-ins and custom stuff like that, obviously maybe it's not so obvious. To me, it always seems like you're way better off building them yourselves. You know what I mean? Because lots of times you've got to either hyper customized usages in terms of, all right, well, I'm going to need a file cabinet here and double doors here and all that kind of thing. It just makes sense to have a unique space. But you also built all the cabinets for your kitchen, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now, was that just because you wanted to do it, or like if you had to do
I
it
didn't have any
again?
money to buy cabinets either.
Okay, so that was driving. So, all right, so that's a good point. So, do you think that budget was driving that? Because your cabinets are nice, and like the kitchen turned out great. Especially that custom hood that you did. I think that's often a question that people have when they're facing a kitchen remodel. Like, all right, should I just knock this out? Like in the garage, even if they don't have a full blown cabinet shop, but I can knock this out, set up a system, set up a workspace in the garage, and knock this out and save money as opposed to just buying them. And I know people are going to say, well, time is money, but without that qualifier, what are your thoughts in terms of the budget side of things? Can you get a better cabinet?
Where it falls short for me is the finishing. Because
good point.
A really good cabinet shop level finish is really a lot harder to do on your own. You don't
in
have
terms of the
access to
equipment you need,
the equipment and even the finishes themselves. I mean, some of that stuff, at least in Connecticut, you have to be like regulated by. You can't get even the same stuff that they can get at a cabinet shop because they're paying and they're playing by a different game where they have to meet certain regulations in order to be able to safely spray that stuff. And they're not going to sell that stuff to you. You can. And that's not to say you can't do a really nice finish. It's just probably not going to be like at the same level as going to a cabinet shop. So that doesn't mean you couldn't take your cabinets to a finisher. Yeah. I mean, we did an article where auto body shops sometimes do them or spray them. I sprayed mine in place, and it came out fine. Like but you can tell it's not.
It's not like what you would expect from
It's not dead flat, perfectly smooth, like high grade cabinet finish. It's just a decently durable cabinet finish that doesn't have brush marks. It's essentially what I ended up with. And I used a cabinet enamel, but that's different than like the real premium stuff that you can get in a real. Now, that's good. I had paint grade. So let's say I did my cabinets out of cherry face frames and doors. What's the difference there? Could I have sprayed a waterborne lacquer and been okay? I can get that.
Yeah.
And then maybe I invest in a sprayer and do it myself. And I mean, I just like being able to do the stuff myself. I enjoy the project.
No, I get that.
About halfway through, I don't enjoy it, but I like to have that challenge. And mine was just so cut up and so custom and weird that
all the cabinets were.
It wasn't like, hey, make me a bunch of these standard boxes.
Yeah.
And that stuff kills me with those standard boxes because sometimes.
You don't want that to drive the design so much.
Yeah, sometimes you get the difference between a 12-inch cabinet and a 15-inch cabinet in the base, and it's like you got to go to semi-custom if you want to get somewhere in the middle of that. And,
right.
And they're set up to do. At least the bigger companies are set up to do certain things, and if you want to deviate from that, you're going to pay for it. Whereas if you're doing it yourself, any of those changes is like not a big deal at all.
Right.
And I would say definitely get good hardware. Because that makes a big difference. Good slides.
To you, what's good hardware?
I use Bloom.
Soft close.
Grasso is another good company.
Yep.
There's a third one, too, that I always forget the name of. No, it's not going to come to me. But
what are you using for drawer pulls and doors? Are you using the Horton Brass or?
Nah.
No?
I can't remember what. I think I used Cliffside.
Oh, yeah, Cliffside.
Industries, maybe, or I can't remember if I did Horton or Cliffside for the hinges. Those are kind of the two that we've
top end
gone back and forth on.
And are you? Did you use Barker Door for your drawer boxes and stuff?
I used Barker, which is an online retailer, and I used Baltic Birch drawer boxes.
That's cool about Barker Door. I'm going to probably entertain using them for the built-ins. I've got actually a bunch of built-ins coming up, but what's cool is you could spec whatever dimension that you want. You could buy the hardware through them too. You could get the Bloom hinges if you want.
You can have them send you a drawer where it's built.
Yeah, that's true too.
And you just put it in the hole.
Sometimes they're just knocked down, flat packed, but they're all dovetailed. You just assemble
Pre-finished.
it. What's cool about it is you get different species. You get a cherry box, you get walnut, you get maple, pre-finished. It's pretty cool stuff.
I ran the actual numbers, and I wonder if I still have those. Because
I remember we were getting nerdy about it.
Well, because I think somebody raised the question of why would you build your own drawer boxes, and I said, well, let me let me take an example. And so
Yeah.
I went and priced out, well, what is a 5x5 foot sheet of Baltic birch? I think I used 5/8 inch or something. What does that cost? And how many drawers can I get out of that? And then same size drawer, what will it cost to have somebody make it for me and mail it to me? And there, Barker door was more expensive, but like by a shockingly little amount.
Right.
It was like, why would I ever build these myself?
Yeah.
Like it seems like a big number when you go and click and add it to your cart and all those drawers add up and you go, I should just do this myself. But then you're like, no,
doesn't make sense.
because it's going to cost me the same amount. It just, so don't do it. Just order them and, factor in the time. And
For sure. Cool.
But anyway, it never ends.
You got questions?
I got questions. Oh, this one's from Adam. We've been talking to Adam about his basement remodel a bunch over the year or so.
This isn't it. All right,
and
you'll have to maybe refresh our memory.
I think this is one where I think we originally were talking about what he needed to have for a barrier between his spray foam and the interior space. Like he wanted to put just plywood up on the walls, but he wasn't sure how thick it had to be. And
Gotcha.
so that got into draft stopping and fire blocking and
all that.
we muddled our way through that. I think that was the same project.
Okay.
But anyway, he sent us an email with the title, I Screwed Up, which is always good.
Was that our fault?
No.
All right, good.
Luckily. You guys screwed up. He said, hi, guys. I'm installing new windows and doors as part of my basement remodel and screwed up measuring and ordering one of them. My rough opening is 3 inches too small for one window. Currently 35 inches, but needs to be 38 inches. Is my only option to open the poured concrete by an extra 3 inches? Could I possibly remove the pressure-treated bucks on either side and tapcon the window flange directly to the concrete? What are your thoughts?
That's not your only option. Your other option is to get a window that
is
fits.
your last option. And he sent us a picture of the window.
I mean, I love it though. Like, I love the mentality.
Yeah.
Like,
well, those windows
busting out that mason saw.
Well, I mean, good luck returning that window, though. He might eat that cost.
He might, but
my solution is different. So it is pretty standard to have pressure-treated bucks along the opening. So you have your concrete opening. You put in your inch and a half thick plywood bucks that are fastened to the concrete. What?
Plywood?
Sorry, pressure-treated PT.
Okay.
And then
thick plywood.
Yeah, and then you put your window into the plywood. You flash that plywood to the concrete, hopefully.
Not plywood.
Damn it, PT. It's the P.
It'll get you.
And then you install your window to that PT. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to gain 3 inches, to me,
take out the PT.
Take out the PT. I mean, that's what he's saying.
And then and then how would you mount that window and flash that window? Tapcon through the flange?
I mean, I'm guessing, based on the fact that he's 3 inches off, I'm guessing he must have just not measured or forgotten about the bucks in that opening or something. You know, it seems
true.
like too much
Maybe.
of a coincidence. And it's like, is it exactly 3 inches? Could you get away with, is that the window flange that you can't fit? Is it the actual window?
But your general feedback is to consider
foregoing
gaining
it for one window.
Yeah, gaining some space with modifying the bucks or eliminating them,
and if they're wooden bucks, wooden windows. Here's how I might approach this. This is damage control at this point. The right answer is to reorder the window at the right size.
Yes.
But
thanks for confirming that. Yes. That is the best.
Here's what
approach.
I would do.
You get the power planner out.
No. You want to wrap the outside of those jams with peel and stick. You want to peel and stick the outside face of that wood, then insert it in the opening and fasten it right to the concrete. Your wood's not in contact with the concrete. Who cares? You want to countersink those tapcons so that you can put a plug into the jam or hide it somewhere where you're not going to see it, like behind a weather strip, behind one of the sash, something like that.
I don't know. It just seems weird.
Of course it seems weird. But, I mean, this could be potentially a lot of money for a custom window.
Could be.
And it could be maybe he's trying to tighten the thing up, and I don't know. He can't leave that window open. Just trying to offer alternatives.
Okay, go back to your distributor first and just see what they could do for you to get a window that fits, and then you could start getting all crazy with Justin. Justin will come help you. drill those Tapcons as they snap off every
I hate Tapcons.
every other Tapcon
I hate Tapcons.
because they break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that they're unreliable to me. Like the experience is unreliable. Sometimes it's a great day with Tapcons. Other times I feel like these are the worst invention ever. Like they're either pull right back out of the hole.
Do you want him to ram set through the flange then?
No, don't set through the flange. I mean, Tapcons are your option, really. You can use anchors or something.
Just wanted to see how far you'd
Lead
go.
sleeves. I would not use a ram set. We got another one here. I forgot to put a name on this one. I think it's Chris. What? You have more to say on that one?
No, sorry. I was just trying to reflect on the question. Was it a window and a door that were missized, or just the window?
He said French doors and large sliding window are fine, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
I think it was one window.
Okay. All right.
It's such a small window. I mean, just peel and stick the thing and put it in the opening.
It's probably a standard size window.
It looked like a pretty nice custom window. It had a nice light pattern.
All right.
I'm not going to show you the photo though.
Okay.
Chris wrote us a note. Oh, by the way, we're going to have Mike put up the article on. Mike Gurton did an article. Mike Alterio would have put up Mike Gurton's article on installing a basement window. And that has a lot of what you need to know about how to put a window in a masonry opening in terms of flashing and
Is that a recent one that he did?
Yeah, we did it.
Is this the one where he replaced the steel window with a replacement?
Yes, exactly. He had his Jerry Garcia hair for a little while.
Oh yeah,
there.
he had
I
a
think it
look
was a couple years ago.
Yeah, Mike, if you're listening, you had a look going on.
Yeah, he is listening.
All right. Yeah, that was a good article because
It's fantastic.
just to recap, it was like lots of windows are those steel windows that are kind of poured in place or cast in place, right?
Yes.
And so it was all about removing that and then putting in a replacement window. But it gets into like how to put wood bucks in, how to secure those, how to flat. It's a good article for sure.
Yeah, it's a great project-y kind of article for people that want to upgrade. Those metal windows in basements really suck.
Yeah.
They fall apart, they stop working, they rust out.
Yeah.
They get because they're so cold and conductive, they get condensation on the interior and they just turn to crap.
Yeah. But you could take the details and the strategies in that context and replicate them into most any window in a foundation wall, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So
Beautiful stuff.
Yep.
All right, after the mold is gone. This is from Chris. Gentlemen, I was in the middle of a kitchen renovation when I discovered a lot of mold in the drywall behind the lower cabinets where the kitchen sink had been. The mold has been taken care of, but now the question is how to repair this section of wall so that the mold doesn't come back. As you can see from the pictures, I sent these to you, Rob. We'll also put them up on the show notes page, findhomebuilding.com/podcast. As you can see from the pictures, the sheathing, which seems to be some kind of hardboard, is cut away behind the pipes, and you can see the backside of the brick that covers the exterior of the house. It appears that this was removed when the house was built, not during the mold remediation. There is about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch air gap, no house wrap at all that I can tell, behind the brick. The house was built in the late 60s. Given that the mold was in the drywall, not the sheathing, I believe the moisture came from the sink. Nevertheless, do I need to worry about the exposed backside of the brick, knowing that the brick will bring in moisture? What insulation would be best here? In short, if you were to tackle putting this wall back together, how would you do it? This area will be covered by cabinets again, so checking for mold will be difficult. Look forward to the podcast every week. Thanks for the help. So let me summarize this for people. Cabinets came off the wall. There was some mold on the drywall behind the cabinets.
On the kitchen side of the drywall or on the
kitchen side?
cavity side?
That was my exact question back to him.
Okay.
He said he didn't take out the cabinets. He had somebody do it, but his understanding is that it was on the face of the drywall, the interior face of the drywall.
Okay.
Can't confirm positively, so let's explore all options here. But so what we're looking at now in these photos that Chris sent us is we're looking into the stud cavity, basically, and there's a fiberboard sheathing on the outside face of the studs, which you can see behind the plumbing, and it's been cut away, it looks like to me, to make room for the fat parts of the plumbing connections, because it's metal plumbing pipe.
Technical term.
The fat parts. Like the joints, the nuts for the joints are wider than the pipe itself, so they cut away some of the sheathing in order to give it room to fit into the wall cavity. You can see through those cuts in the fiberboard sheathing that you're looking at the backside of the brick face of the building. Mm-hmm. And so where's this mold coming from? My question back to him was, again, which side of the drywall did you see the mold on? But then also, did the cabinets have backs on them?
Right.
Because we
or did
have
they just knock them out for the trap and all that. And,
well, not only that, but some of those cabinets in certain vintages were built in place.
Oh, that's
they
right.
Didn't have backs.
Yeah, right.
It's, I mean, in the 60s.
Yep.
I mean, that was still going on in the 60s. Not as much. Started to switch over to cabinet boxes. But what happens when your cabinets don't have a back is that you don't get as much circulation in there, and those areas are colder. So in the winter, you end up getting mold growing on the wall at the back of your cabinet because it's colder and more moist than anywhere else. Because your cabinet doors are closed, it's cold in there. It's, you following me?
Yeah,
that's a common problem.
There's warm, moist air condensing on that drywall at the back of the cabinet.
Right.
Yep. Not necessarily because it's just the doors are closed, but because you could have a really poor, there could be air leaks and stuff coming through this. That's what I was trying to see. Like, okay, we've got like big plumbing penetration stuff going. I don't know exactly which way, you know what I mean? But that's obviously an opportunity for air leaks coming in into that area, cooling the backside of the drywall, in addition to what you were talking about.
I mean, it could be a leaky pipe too. I mean, this is around plumbing. It could have been that your pipe was dripping on the drywall. That's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Make it so your pipes don't leak. It could have been that you had cold water in the pipes, and again, you're getting condensation off the pipes. A lot of people think that condensation is leaks, and it's not.
Right.
People see water and they think something's leaking, and they go to a lot of trouble to fix those leaky things. And a lot of times, it's just condensation dripping off of something like a toilet.
Yeah.
Toilet rotting out your floor under
what I thought
your toilet.
I guess what it doesn't seem like it is vapor drive and all that kind of stuff that could be happening coming through the brick, which he had acknowledged. Why
do you say it doesn't seem like that?
Well, based upon where the mold was growing.
Yeah, well, that is the question. I mean, we know that when that brick has a lot of problems with vapor drive. So what happens is, we've talked about this in past shows. Brick gets wet when it rains. Moisture, it's a reservoir cladding. It can hold a lot of moisture. The sun comes out, it pushes that moisture in, and so now all your moisture is on the interior face of the brick. And if you don't have adequate air gap and airflow behind there, it won't dry out. And then that will keep your sheathing moisture content elevated, and you will start to have problems back there. It's pretty much like the fastest way that you can rot out sheathing. Now, fiberboard sheathing, I'm guessing, is pretty vapor permeable because it looks like it's just quarter-inch masonite or something.
Yep.
So what do we do here?
I would...
Jeff, what do we do here, Jeff?
I would air seal. For instance, like, is this a slab? What's going on with the floor here? I don't know. So we got this big main plumbing stack and that big old hole in the cavity, in the framing cavity behind the...
It looks like that might just be, maybe it's a slab. Maybe it's got metal studs too. Yeah, it's a bizarre setup.
But anyway, so I would air seal this space to ensure that there's no, again, I don't know where this plumbing pipe goes and what it looks like, but I would just air seal everything you can.
So you're kind of isolating that.
Yeah. I mean, because he's not going to keep on going. He's not like now gutting the entire, if we're just dealing with this isolated area.
Well, that's the problem here. It's like,
how far do you excavate?
I would love to tell you to, it's not clear to me whether there's a vapor barrier here. I can see fiberglass bats possibly with a craft facing,
which is all decent.
That's fine. So you're saying basically isolate this area the best you can. Pipes going in and out, seal those penetrations.
Yeah, make sure that there's not like this influx of cold air cooling the back of the drywall, which could have been helping create a condensing surface. So once you air seal, then you could, re-insulate.
I would be tempted to see if I could put some rigid foam behind those pipes against that fiberboard sheathing.
Yes,
something like EPS or XPS, the white stuff, or the pink, blue, purple, green stuff, that has some ability to transfer moisture. So if you do have a water problem, it will still have a chance to dry out. Something like anything with a foil facing is going to be a no-go because unless you're positive where your vapor barrier wants to be, don't go with something that has a vapor barrier on it.
Right.
Like if you're sure that you're having a problem with moisture driving inward, then put this stuff in a place that's going to block that. If you aren't sure, then warm it up with some insulation, but leave some room for it to dry out too. You could do some little cut and cobble approach by putting rigid foam in there and then sealing it, and then pack the rest with bats. And like Rob said, air seal those penetrations where the plumbing pipes go into the wall cavity too.
Yep.
And for those people who do, by the way, this is a kind of an ancillary thing, but a lot of times people that have plaster on their walls will, like behind a cabinet, will open them up and see those water stains, and they'll think I have a leak. Plaster leaks showing up on plaster kind of don't go away. Like it'll be there. It'll look like it's been leaking forever, and it could be 100 years old. Doesn't necessarily mean you have an active problem. So just, at that point you want to see, well, is it actually wet actively? Like monitor it before you go crazy and think that you have a leak that you're trying to chase down. You might have had one that somebody already fixed. Another question. What about SIPs? I haven't heard you talk much about SIPs, structural insulated panels. You're not listening, buddy. We talk.
Yeah, come
we
on,
talk about
man.
it. I'm planning on building my addition with ICFs for the foundation and SIPs for the walls because I love acronyms now. And scissor trusses and steel with as much cellulose as I can blow in for the roof. What are some drawbacks or things to watch out for with SIPs? To give you a bit of context, I'm in northern Canada, so it occasionally gets kind of cold. But where I live, it is fairly dry year-round. So, biggest drawback to SIPs. We had another interesting question. We can almost do these in tandem, I think, when we talk about SIPs. Somebody else was talking about a timber frame. They wanted to do a timber frame structure, and they wanted to insulate that timber frame structure, but they were kind of annoyed that, how do you insulate a timber frame without being redundant? Because some people put SIPs on the outside of a timber frame. At that point, your timber frame's not structural. The SIPs are. So he was like, what are my options for, I already have my structure. It's a timber frame. I don't need another structure. How do I insulate the thing? Yikes. And I was like, yeah, that's an interesting question. Larson trusses was one thing we were talking about.
I mean, it is redundant, but I think you're also looking to the efficiency of the construction. I mean, do you really want to start hanging Larson trusses? For people who don't know what a Larson truss is, it's essentially you're hanging a floor joist vertically on the exterior of a house to create a big insulated or a big cavity that you could then insulate.
I don't like Larson trusses.
I mean, it's a way to. I get it in retrofits, like in a deep energy retrofit sometimes, like where you're going to go and you're just going to strip the shell. You're not going to touch the interior. You want boatloads of, that's a lot of insulation that you're adding.
How do you, we're just right off topic here. How do you
attach that flange to the studs of the house?
No, that's that. Okay. How do you manage the transition from the wall to grade and to the basement? How is that not a weak point? You'd have to have that insulation go underground practically for it to really encapsulate the exposed part of it. So I could add 14 inches of foam or 14 inches of Larson truss insulation on the outside of my walls. Mm-hmm. And then I have a little cantilevered recess where cold air can just scoot right past the underside of it and underneath my mud sill into the house.
Maybe it just needs to come down beyond the floor system so that you've got that continuous thermal boundary.
Then
if you have an uninsulated basement.
What's that? What about my foundation then?
Who cares about your foundation?
Well, my foundation's gonna be cold, and I don't have insulation covering that.
Yeah, but who cares if your thermal boundary is in your first floor system?
You're saying...
And you don't have any mechanicals in your basement.
That's still a tricky transition. How do you air seal that?
Not disputing that.
You have to jack up the house in order to get that peel and stick under the mud sill.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I thought about doing that for my house.
No, you didn't.
I did for a second.
Come on.
Only because, we're off into the weeds.
I love the weeds.
Is because...
That's where I live.
There's a danger sometimes, not knowing enough, but knowing just enough to get, into trouble and entertaining insane things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when sometimes those insane thoughts are fueled by building science, quote unquote, best practices. So I was on Building Science Corp looking at these retrofit details and some of the content that Joe Stiebrick has published. And, for people who don't know, Joe Stiebrick, head of Building Science Corp, he uses his own home and his own barn as kind of an experimental project, and he's done extensive retrofits. And when he was executing the detail, he had some very strong language on the best way to do it was, you need to really air seal that transition. And what he wound up doing, because he had a similar foundation to mine, he actually jacked up the house and re-detailed the mud sills. And I was like, is that what I have to do?
Well, he had like a big timber sill, right? Wasn't it? Like he needed some way to separate the wet concrete.
Yeah, it was essentially
the moist concrete from his wood.
Essentially, I think he was using that cross-laminated poly vapor barrier stuff.
He was doing his basement.
Yeah.
That's what this is part of.
Yeah, and this is when I was entertaining my basement.
okay.
I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Because I know how to detail the slab, I detail the walls. And I was like, oh, what about the weak point at the mud sill? How am I going to detail that? He jacked up his house and slipped that underneath and really isolated the foundation from the framing. And I was like, is that what I have to do? No.
Yeah. Then you wised up and you're like, no, I'm going to put a bead of caulk on it or something. Okay, so what are
some spray foam?
What are some drawbacks to SIPs?
So the chief complaint that I have heard is that where you join SIPs together, you kind of create these two rabbits on the edge of the SIP, and they're joined with 2x material, and they're notoriously difficult to air seal.
Yes.
And so when you, especially in this climate, when you get this, when you get these air leaks that are, full of moist air, and typically those SIPs are made with OSB.
Yep, they're
skins,
always made with OSB.
Which we know, we discuss time and time again, that they're not as resistant to moisture as some other materials. They get wet, and it's never a good thing. And so there's been some pretty serious failures with the sheathing. And my understanding is that the SIP manufacturers don't always back and will support replacement, because really it comes down to an installation detail, and so that falls onto the builder. But inherently, the product is just very difficult to air seal at its joints. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Beyond future remodeling.
Yep.
Beyond all the little nuances of how you run electrical and all that kind of stuff.
It's all doable, but it may be out of the wheelhouse for people that you're used to working with.
Yeah. But from a performance standpoint, that is the chief complaint that I've heard is the joints.
It's the air sealing the joints, and the suggested solutions to it are sort of like
they look
really,
on paper.
Dude? Yeah, like somehow like you have let's say it's a timber frame, you have the cross beam where a panel joint is going to land. You want to go up there, lay peel and sticky side up,
right
across the top of it with the backing peeled off. Then drop the panel onto it,
and then try
to smooth it out.
Yeah,
and it's like, huh?
Yeah,
like what world are you living in? That's gonna work,
right? Yeah, show that to your builder and
say
he's
gonna be like, and we're gonna skip that tape and just throw it away and tell you we did it, and not answer the phone when you call later.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't just do tongue and groove connections with the foam. Like, why can't they just switch to that system?
Well, I mean, it's. I don't know. I mean, I think effectively that's what.
Did I just solve it?
Well, no, I think that's what you're still trying to do with that 2x material. It's just, I don't know.
Why can't you? I mean, even if you just site cut splines, like you had floating, like 2-inch thick pieces of foam that you like glued in the joints.
That is what the 2x material is. It's essentially a spline between those panels, and it's still all right. Then how do you air seal that whole connection?
Spray foam. You gotta put goop in there and then put the two sandwich pieces together.
Yeah, I guess so.
But not with wood. You gotta do it with like a piece of foam, like tongue or groove. I don't know.
So we could probably put a link up to this, because Martin Holliday has definitely addressed this issue extensively on greenbuildingadvisor.com.
Yes.
And you could probably read to your heart's content over the pros and cons of SIPs. So we'll be sure that Mike A.
Read to your heart's content.
Yeah, we'll put that up.
All right, that's going to wrap us up. That's it. That's all we got.
That's it.
See y'all next week. Remember, FHBpodcast.taunton.com is how you can find us. You can also get us on social media and all those happy places. Find Homebuilding. Find Homebuilding.com. There we go. Hein Foam Building.
Remember to come hang out at JLC and say hello.
JLC Live in Providence, March 22nd is when that show happens. You can check out their website for more information. Stay tuned to our social channels. We'll give you more information about what we're going to be doing there and where you can find us. But guess it is tentatively set up for the lounge area, or we got that nailed down?
It's pretty close.
Booked. All
We'll
right.
be hanging there Friday and Saturday.
Come by and give somebody some T-shirts. Are we doing some T-shirts, Rob?
TBD, maybe.
TBD.
Well,
Here's
the thing. We've got a new design,
We got a new design.
and they're awesome.
Yeah, new
So-
T-shirt design coming out soon.
Yeah, they're in the works.
2018 edition.
Yeah.
All right, collect them, trade them with your friends. All right, Jeff, you got anything else you want to add? All right, good. Till next week, this is Justin for Rob and Rob saying keep craft alive and happy building.